My second book, The Original Names, Words and Everything in Between, Volume 2, is now available to purchase. However, for your chance to win a signed copy of this book, send your favourite word origin to originalnamesbook@gmail.com and my 3 favourites will receive signed copies. The chosen winners will be revealed in a video on the 10th of January 2022, and you have until then to submit your favourite word origins. One of the most retold stories around this time of year, and perhaps most retold of all time, is the tale of the birth of Jesus Christ. Well, in predominantly Christian countries this is probably the case anyway. Though as Christmas has become popular even outside of Christian circles, so has this tale. There's probably few people who won't be able to tell you even the bare bones of this narrative. How Mary was impregnated with the Son of God, how her and her husband Joseph travelled back to Bethlehem, where she gave birth to the baby Jesus, and from here the religion we call Christianity really took off. Whether it be through a church service or a bunch of children on a school stage, this is a tale that is retold and reenacted by millions every Christmas time. However, this is way more than just a tale. The story of the birth of Christ is based on a variety of truths, with one of those truths being the various locations in which this story is set. Most people have heard of Bethlehem. However, this isn't some fictional place like the city of Oz, nor is it a place lost to time like Babylon. Bethlehem is a city that still stands on our planet today, where many people live and work. Unsurprisingly, it gets pretty popular around this time of year. So today, let's look into the locations of the Nativity that are known to so many of us, and find out how they got their names. Though something I noticed is that some of the locations in this story are pretty vague. Some parts give us specific regions and towns, while sometimes we're just told of entire countries. So if I seem a bit unspecific with some location in this video, that is the reason why. The first name we should look into, however, isn't so much a location, but the name for this story as a whole. A popular name for the story of the birth of Jesus is the Nativity. This name comes from the Old French Nativity, which means things like origin and descent. This Old French word, however, ultimately came from the Latin nativus, which means born. This is also where we get the term native from too, as where you were born and where you are native to tend to be one and the same. This nativity, however, starts in the city of Nazareth. It was in this city where Mary and Joseph lived, and here where Mary was informed by the angel Gabriel that she was to birth the Son of God. Nazareth can be found today on our planet in the nation of Israel. It is the largest city in the nation's northern district, with a population of around 80,000. It's thought to be a pretty old city too, thought to have been founded in around 2200 BC. There's a few ideas as to where this name of Nazareth actually comes from, however. Most seem to agree that it's a name of Hebrew roots. One idea is that it comes from the Hebrew word for branch, as in the things that trees have. This etymology is thought to come from the book of Isaiah in the Hebrew Bible. This features the line, "From roots a branch will bear fruit," which implies that Nazareth is the branch and the fruit it bears is Jesus himself. Nazareth went on to be a title that Jesus would take on, becoming popularly known as Jesus of Nazareth. This is kind of strange, as he actually wasn't born in Nazareth, so he wasn't technically of Nazareth. This ironically ties into the whole idea of nativity, as we mentioned earlier, which ultimately means things like birth, and Jesus was not born in Nazareth. The city of Nazareth is located in a region called Galilee. This is another place name that pops up often in the nativity. In some instances, Galilee and Nazareth are interchangeable with one another when telling this story. The region of Galilee actually crosses over into two modern nations. The northern part of this region is located in the nation of Lebanon, and the southern part of the region is located in Israel. Nazareth is in the southern part of Galilee in modern Israel. This name seems to come from circular origins. Some sources say it comes from the Hebrew term meaning to roll, and others have it meaning circle. I'm not exactly sure what this relates to though, perhaps the geography of the land. Another idea is that it's a compression of the Hebrew Gelil Hagoyim, which means the district of nations, which might refer to people from other nations who resided here. The story of the Nativity only starts in the town of Nazareth, in the region of Galilee, however. At the time of the birth of Jesus, this part of the world was under rule of the great and somewhat new Roman Empire. Rome was still under the reign of its first emperor, Augustus. Rome was on the up and up during this time, and more people were living in the empire. More people means more taxes for the empire, and Emperor Augustus wanted to know just how many people exactly were now living in his empire. This meant a census had to be taken place. A census is when an entire population of people are counted to get a clear understanding of exactly how many people are living in a location. For this census, people had to return back to where their families initially came from. Joseph, Mary's husband, was from the city of Bethlehem, meaning he and his wife had to return to Bethlehem. This began the famous travel of Joseph and his pregnant wife on the back of a donkey. This was about a 70-mile journey, and from my research, donkeys walk at about 3.5 miles an hour. This means it would take around 20 hours or so to reach Bethlehem. However, this donkey probably went a little bit slower as Mary was pregnant and they probably wouldn't have travelled all day, so it probably took a few days to actually reach the city. Mary, Joseph and the donkey didn't just move from town to town, however, they travelled across regions too, as Bethlehem is not in the region of Galilee, but in the region of Judea. Judea is a region on our globe that is still there to this day. On the present globe, Judea is more of a geographic region that spans across Israel and the West Bank. However, in the time of the Nativity, Judea was a province of the Roman Empire. The name Judea has roots in deep Jewish history. It is the Greek and Roman adaptation of the term Kingdom of Judah, which was a kingdom once in this part of the world, which was central to the formation of Judaism. The Kingdom of Judah in turn is named after the tribe of Judah, a group of people from this land, with this tribe named after one actual Judah, that being Judah, the son of Jacob. He was the founder of the Israelites, so this man named a tribe, which ended up naming a kingdom, which ended up naming this region. It was also from the name of Judah as to where the term Jew comes from too. It's worth noting that during this time the province of Judea was under the rule of a client king of Rome, that being Herod the Great, who would go on to be something of an adversary of the baby Jesus. For now, however, we find Mary and Joseph in a rather crowded Bethlehem. Modern day Bethlehem does not seem to be as large as modern Nazareth, with a population of around 25,000. The modern Church of the Nativity is here, which is supposedly built upon where Jesus was born. As for that name of Bethlehem, there's a few ideas as to where this name came from too. This is a very ancient part of the world, hence why we aren't entirely sure as to where many of these names came from. The most popular idea for this etymology of Bethlehem is that it means house of bread. Why it means this, I'm not too sure. Bread is a food with a lot of connotations, from being a term for food as a whole, and of course in Christianity it would go on to symbolize the body of Christ. Maybe Bethlehem was a place full of food production, or maybe they just made some darn good bread there. Perhaps the key location in all of this nativity, however, is the location where baby Jesus was actually born. He was of course born in a stable. However, this stable does not seem to have a specific name of any kind. However, let's look into where that word came from anyway, as I find it interesting. It comes from the Latin stabulum, which means a standing place, whether that be a place with farm animals or any kind of animal. What's interesting is that stable has also gone on to become an adjective, meaning something is unlikely to collapse, metaphorically or literally. This meaning for the word also comes from Latin, but with a different Latin word, that being stabilis, meaning firm and steadfast. So both meanings for stable in English come from two different Latin words. However, these two Latin words come from the same Proto-Indo-European root of star, meaning to stand or make firm. I just find it really interesting, however, that these words came back around to sounding the same, despite somewhat diverging during their time in Latin. Once born in the stable, Jesus was put to sleep in a manger. Mangers have now become synonymous with the baby Jesus sleeping in them. However, they're actually large troughs that farm animals eat out of. This was a stable after all. It's this action of eating as to where the name for this makeshift crib actually comes from, as it ultimately derives from the Latin word for eating and chewing. This was probably a tad more obvious to French speakers, as to eat in French is literally manger, albeit it's pronounced a tad differently compared to manger. There are other locations in the Nativity, however, though this is where things start to get a little bit vague. An example, the shepherds who came to visit. The Gospel of Luke says they were from the same country staying in a field, but does not point out where exactly they were. Like I said, vagueness. Then we have the three wise men, or magi, or kings as they are also known as. They're some of the more intriguing figures in the story of the Nativity. There's a handful of ideas as to where they came from, ranging from Ethiopia, Arabia, India, and even China. Ideas range from all three or just one of them coming from each of these lands. I shan't go into all the details as these are place names that we've covered in previous videos. The most popular idea as to where they came from, however, is Persia. For ease's sake, Persia is basically the previous name of modern day Iran, though there is a tad more to it however. The name Persia is thought to come from the Parsi people who once lived here. I may have covered this before in my Iraq-Iran video, but I'm tired and don't fully remember. That's the majority of known locations of the Nativity however, though the aforementioned vagueness of names carries over into the names of characters too. The wise men are often known as just that. They are believed to have actual names however, those being Melchior, Caspar and Balthazar. Pretty cool names I must admit. However, I could not find any ideas as to what the shepherds were called. Not one gospel or ancient source seems to have ever considered naming them. This is truly a tragedy for shepherds across the world. Let me know what you think would have been a good name for these shepherds down in the comments below. Thank you to all my patrons who support Name Explain on a monthly basis. Patron is vital to Name Explain, and donating just $2 a month allows you to enjoy ad-free videos and bonus patron exclusive content. It also allows you to help choose what names get explained in upcoming videos, and gets your name here with all these awesome people. Thank you so much for all the support you guys give Name Explain. Thank you so much for reaching the end of the video. Check out another video and subscribe to stay in the loop on all things Name Explain. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram where I'm Name Explain YT, and also join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain, both of which will be linked down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, thank you all so much.